So we just saw in our intro video the definition of rational exponents, how you have the power over the root. So now we're just going to look at some different examples of what this might look like and how we can simplify it. So 16 to the 3/4 power. Anytime you have your rational exponent, we do want to go ahead and rewrite this. It is the 4th root of 16. So 4th root of 16. There's the root, I look at that first, and we're going to raise that to the 3rd power. So we're going to simplify our root first. 4th root of 16 means there's a number we multiply by itself 4 times to get 16. So is it 1? Is 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 16? Or is it 2? Or 3? Or 4? So you can find this pretty quickly. It actually is 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So the 4th root of 16 is 2. And then we're going to go ahead and do the power. 2 to the 3rd power is 2 times 2 times 2, which is equal to 8. So what we do is we end up breaking this rational exponent into 2 problems. We're going to focus on the root first and then the power. All right, example 5, we have 16 to the 3/2 power. So again, it's the 2nd root, which is the square root of 16, raised to the 3rd power. Square root of 16 we know is 4. 4 to the 3rd power is 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 4 is 64. So hopefully you feel like these aren't too bad. As long as we're understanding the general idea, then we'll be in good shape when we get to some more tricky examples. So example 6, I noticed that we have a negative exponent. So I'm going to go ahead and make that a positive exponent. We can't do anything until that's positive. Now we're going to rewrite 16 to the 3/2 power. So 1 over, I focus on the root first. It's the 2nd root, which is the square root. So square root of 16, and then the power is 3, so to the 3rd power. So we do 1 over the square root of 16 is 4, and 4 to the 3rd power is 64. So 1 over 64. All right, example 7, we have 9 to the 1.5 power. So again, when we have that decimal exponent, let's go ahead and think of what that is in fractions. So 1.5 is equal to 3/2. So really we're looking at 9 to the 3/2 power. We're going to rewrite that looking at your root first. It's the 2nd root. 2nd root is a square root of 9. And then we are going to go ahead and raise that to the 3rd power. Square root of 9 is 3, and 3 to the 3rd power is 3 times 3 times 3, which gives us 27. All right, example 8, we have a negative 0.5 power. So again, let's think of that in fraction terms or fraction form. That's what I was trying to think of on the last one. That is a negative 1/2 exponent. Now, here's a little shortcut. If you are raising a fraction to a negative exponent, here's the long way of that. If you did 4/9 to the negative, I'm just saying negative 1 power. That's the same thing as 1 over 4/9 to the positive 1 power. Well, now you have a fraction within a fraction, so you would have to divide those fractions. 1 over 1 times, instead of dividing by 4/9, we would multiply by 9 over 4. And if you notice, it ends up flipping our fraction on us. So we can jump to that, knowing that this is the math that would happen every time that you have a fraction raised to a negative exponent. I know that we can go ahead and say that this is the same thing as, well, first 4/9 raised to the negative 1/2 power is equal to 9/4 raised to the positive 1/2 power. All right, so that's just a little shortcut you can do, that if you have a fraction raised to a negative exponent, when you go to make that exponent positive, you could go through all the stuff below, so just flip your fraction, make your exponent positive. That's a nice little shortcut. All right, so now that exponent goes into everything on the inside, so 9 to the 1/2 over 4 to the 1/2. And 9 to the 1/2 power is the second root, so square root of 9 to the first, over 4 to the 1/2 power is square root of 4 to the first power, which gives us square root of 9 is 3, square root of 4 is 2. All right, example 9, we have -8 raised to the negative exponent. Now this isn't a fraction raised to a negative exponent, it's just -8. So we will go ahead and make that a positive 5/3, so 1 over, your base never changes, that becomes a 5/3. Look at the root first, it is the cube root of -8, so 1 over cube root of -8, and this whole thing is going to be raised to the 5th power. Now, can you take a cube root of a negative number? Yes, you can. So cube root of -8 is just a -2, so 1 over -2 raised to the 5th power. And if you have a -2 raised to the 5th power, if you multiply 5 -2's, you get a -32. So 1 over -32, let's go ahead and throw that negative on top, so we have a -1/32.